right, so it is 6:02, and the meeting of the WSESD on June 4th, 2024 will come to order. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely and some are meeting physically in a previously noticed location where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. We will do our best to keep everyone connected. If there's a problem, please reach out via text or email someone in the meeting. And again, we will do our best. The meeting will continue, nevertheless. As the board looks at the agenda, are there any changes at this time to the agenda? In addition, are there any changes to the consent agenda that necessitates amendments of any kind? Okay, so because if there is an issue with the consent agenda, let's pull it out. Otherwise, it will be one motion to approve the consent agenda. We are going to begin with student matters, 10 minutes. So this is time for students in our community, regardless of the school, to speak out and offer comment. So if there are students in our community who would like to offer comment, have questions, have concerns, this is your time. Okay, we'll give it another minute.
Hi, I'm Eva, and I'm here because I was interested in applying for student representative, and I wasn't sure how to do that, so here I am. Hello.
Well, welcome Eva, and I believe you spoke to Tim Maciel about the process.
I did.
Okay, and if you have any questions, by all means reach out to Tim, reach out to me, Deborah Stanford, and we'll certainly keep you apprised of the process. We're beyond, I'm sure Tim said this to you, but I'll just say this publicly for everyone. We are beyond the application deadline at this point, but it will reopen as the school year begins. So please apply at that point or apply now and let us have your application. I don't know, did you say anything else?
I said just that. Great minds think alike.
There we go. Hannah, did you want to say something?
I was going to share the same thing, is that students have been reaching out and I've said that if they want to apply for it, they can submit the application now and it'll be looked at in August, or they can wait.
Yeah, and I think the three of us, as well as others, will stay on target for the beginning of the school year and get this out immediately. Okay, an invitation for everyone to apply. Okay. All right, thank you. Anybody else? Students, this is your time. So it is 6:07, and I'm going to move on to public comment on non-agenda items. This is a time for the board to listen and to take notes. It is not time for the board to respond to comments or engage in dialogue with the public. If appropriate, the board and administration will work on next steps. So we are opening up with public comment on non-agenda items. I'm sorry, hi.
Hi. My name is Jean Gilbert, and I'm here as a taxpayer tonight. First of all, I want to thank you for the job that you do. I've sat there and chaired a board that was 17 members at VOHS years ago. And we get $1,000 a year, and I know you guys got a hefty raise, so that's great for you. But I have a real quick question, and I hope I did find it because I watch these meetings from home sometimes, and you know, like the quarterback that you sit on the sideline, you want to scream and yell, and sometimes I do that. But I guess I was really taken aback with, I think it passed, and I just don't know what the wording was about reimbursing board members for childcare and elder care. I want to know what the thought process was on that. I'm thinking, you know, how much is that going to cost? And is that going to open up for staff members who say, you know, I'm going to come in tonight. Are you going to pay for my childcare? I've got my mother living with me. I can't leave her. I have to pay for childcare. And I guess I'm thinking this, when you run for this school board, it's a community service. You're not doing this for the money. You know, you should have no agendas. It's you believe in what's best for the kids. And that's what you should be running the school board, you know, for. And the other thing I just happened to see, which I thought was ludicrous, was snacks at board meetings.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The snacks at board meetings, I think it was on the agenda last time. And I think Matt brought his snack tonight. And I was gonna say, I don't know where that was coming from. I realize some board meetings last a very long time. But I mean, we did potlucks 20 years ago at board meetings. So I guess I just want to question, because to me, it's a waste of taxpayers' money. And I don't understand it. And I think that money could be better put for our children, for wellness for the staff, and basically that will help the staff, the kids too. So my questions are why, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. Any other comment from the public? All right, so I did read a statement saying that we will not respond. And we'll keep it at that. We'll keep it at that. Thank you. Any other comment from the public?
Thank you for your time.
Oh, my goodness, thank you very much. Thank you. And this is very much in our thoughts right now, to be addressed. Thank you. All right, let's move on to Leadership Council updates. 5 minutes. Any updates, leadership councils? Now, I know we just met last week, so it's a little bit of a culture shock to be here after only 1 week. All right, leadership council updates. Any updates from board subcommittees? Board subcommittees, the ones that are meeting, the ones that have yet to meet, perhaps? Anything?
Personnel meets tomorrow at 4:30.
Personnel meets tomorrow at 4:30. Sean?
I had a meet yesterday at 1, but it's on the fiscal report, item number 6, so I think that's gonna be when any comments should be covered.
Okay.
And Vance is meeting on Thursday.
All right, everybody's very, very busy. And, we're talking about leadership councils at this point, okay. And
the BUHS Leadership Council is meeting tomorrow, and I expect that there will be some very vibrant conversations about cell phone usage. I know is something that was shared by a community member, and I know that there have been conversations about the heat inside of the classrooms. So those will likely come up tomorrow at the Leadership Council, I would anticipate.
okay, thank you. So we can certainly see when all of the leadership councils are meeting on the schedule. I know that the Dummerston Leadership Council is meeting on the 6th, this Thursday, And,
Putney's meeting on the 12th.
Putney's meeting on the 12th, okay?
And Guilford is meeting on Wednesday.
All right, so again, thank you for sharing all of these scheduled meetings. They certainly exist on the schedule for people to see. Anything else coming out of leadership councils? Okay, so we are up to letter C, and that is to evaluate meeting norms, and it is 6:13. Okay. There's an exercise that I thought to repeat, an exercise that Mark Spino and Deborah and Eva and Tim and Ruby, we are well aware of. This is somewhat of a repeat of an exercise that we did at the VSBA conference the end of October. And I want to use it as a way of entering into a discussion having to do with meeting norms. I distributed an article from Harvard Business Week. So here's what I'd like to do. I'm going to count off, how many are we here as board members physically? We are 9, counting me. Is that right?
Yes.
So 9, let's leave.
Colleen is online, but
Is Colleen
I
online?
do not see her.
Okay,
She's
this is, yeah, I think she is. So 9, that means 8. I'm never good with math, I'm not good with, right, we know that. So if I do groups of 3, that would mean I would have 2 groups of 3 and a group of 2. Is that correct? Okay, so I'm gonna do it this way, because I'd like us to move around a little bit. So I'm gonna do a count off, starting with Ann. 1.
2. Wait, am I counting 1 or 2?
You're 3.
Oh, great, sorry.
Sorry.
3.
1.
Sean, you're 3.
Yes. I didn't hear Brian, I'm sorry.
And Ruby, you're 2. So then I would like all of the, you're gonna need a writing implement, please. So I'd like all of the 1s over by Ruby, all of the 2s over by Brian, all of the 3s over here, okay? So if we could just physically move, that would be great.
Wait, are you
Maybe you just get it, it's not gonna be by root.
I am sleeping, I'm running away.
Oh, you
I'm at 2.
Hey, cool. Hey, there we go. Yes.
Okay,
So.
so the 3s are, where are the 3s? Over here. So, okay, I'm gonna give each one, so grab a seat, please. You're gonna sit in someone else's place, if that's okay with people? Okay, so each of you have a blue Post-it. Thank you. We'll see how well this works. Each of you have a blue Post-it. And
This is exciting.
He just did for us.
What's that?
if you would take 1 each. Take 1 each. I think you have an extra. Thank you very much. Take 1 each. So, what I would like everyone to do, and I'd like you to do this as quickly as possible, I'd like you to circle on the sheet that I handed out, which says personal beliefs, I'd like you to circle 5 qualities that you value as a board member. The top 5 qualities that you value as a board member. top 5. This is, can we just make this, let's make this a silent activity. Okay, everybody have 5 circled?
No.
Well, what are you waiting for?
I read quickly, but not that quickly.
Ouch.
Well, I wanted that to be an ouch. Thank you for recognizing it. I wanted it to be an ouch. No questions. Just take a chance. Okay, top 5 qualities. Do we have them? Okay, so these are the top 5 qualities that you value as a board member. So, select the 1 out of the 5. The 1, only the 1. And could you write that in big letters on that Post-it, please? That 1 quality. Yes, you do. You each have your own Post-it. Okay, we done? So you have that 1 quality on the Post-it. Thank you. So in your groups, if you could, are we all settled on the 1 quality? Okay, in your groups, if you could face each other, cluster together, and so here are the ground rules. Share within your group a rationale for what you selected, why you selected it. And the goal is that in the group, you select only one of the 3 that is representative of the top quality for everyone in the group. That you will agree on that 1 quality consensus. And as you cluster in your groups, just make sure that you're sharing the speaking time. And I'm going to set a timer for, well, let's see how we do with 1 minute. We got 1 minute. Time starts now.
Because sometimes I just say like I hated math. I like it to hate math.
But eventually it's gonna come out anyway.
But I figured I hated it.
Because it's beyond.
Yeah, so it, like it all folds in together.
If there's careful, then this is vulnerability that they'll put on the table and say, this is how we started with, then we might have.
I did too. And I think I
That
like
gets things done.
missed integrity.
Leadership to communicate
Yeah.
strength and strong
Okay, I'm calling time at 30 seconds.
to put it out there.
Yes.
To me, is it
I think it's the integrity means that you know when you don't know
Yeah.
and you admit it.
Yes.
Everything you do,
That's the thing that drives
you're
us up.
bound with.
Very good.
It all rolls up into integrity. I think we all basically do the same.
All right. We're done.
Okay, it's 1 minute. I'm calling time at 1 minute. Okay? All right, thank you. So, just before we come together, can you name your group, please? Give your name, give your group a name. You're in clusters. Just put a name, pick a name, and remember it, please. Okay. Are we set? Alright, so on the back of the sheet, just jot down a couple of thoughts. Number one, how did this activity make you feel? When you moved into clustered groups, I'm just gonna give you a couple of prompts. When you moved into clustered groups and you had to defend your choice, how did that feel? How did you feel when compelled to shift your position? Okay, so let's just keep this a silent activity, so you're just writing about this process. Oops, sorry. Okay. Enough time? Enough time. Okay, enough time, thank you. All right, so I don't know whether you want to stay where you are or you want to go back to your original spots. We can stay here, but let's come together as a group and please share that one quality and what the rationale was for that one quality, group by group. All right? I don't know who wants to speak for the group, multiple people. Now, so everybody, we're just gonna start with Matt.
Our group will speak. We've dubbed ourselves the ones, and our value or quality is integrity.
Okay. So we've got the ones, and it's integrity. Okay, and Ruby?
So I am part of the humorists.
The what?
The humorists. And we overheard that they chose integrity, so we didn't choose that. Humor was actually bubbling up and was going to be our value, but we settled on community.
Okay, community. I did hear a lot of laughter from your group, yes. A lot of, no laughter. Oh God, it was grim. It was grim. Okay, sorry, I misunderstood the sound and the looks. All right, and the last group?
We're the buttercups.
Okay, right.
And our choice is ecological awareness. And the reason we chose that is because we both feel as if our primary concern in some respects is to take care of the earth and all living things other than just human beings.
Okay, thank you. The humorist, do you want to give a rationale for community?
I mean, I think everything we do is for our students, which is our community, and our focus is always on them.
Okay, thank you. And the group entitled The Ones, not the onesies, but the ones. The ones. Okay, sorry about that.
Yes.
All right.
We felt that integrity embodied the quality of being honest, having strong moral principles, and moral uprightness. So being very, aware of ourselves, our strengths and weaknesses, and being vulnerable.
And we felt that for the board to make progress, this is a quality that's essential.
Thank you. All right. So we're going to take a look at our existing community norms at this point. Do you want to go back into our original seats?
Great work, team. Well done.
And I'm going to ask you to take one package and pass one.
It's really thick, goes like carpet.
Was it?
Yeah,
Your vote.
yes, thank you all. So the issue of community norms has come up again and again. And the last time, as a board, we worked to create consensus on a set of norms was actually 2 years ago. And everything that I've read says the board should be doing this every year. Every year it's a new board. And we really do need to buy into how we come together as a group. Other literature says that this should be done in public session. It should be done at a board meeting. So let's see where we stand right now with community norms. The first 2 pages, the first one are a list of the norms that we've seen on the board. The second page is a little more detail about each of the norms. And then the third and the fourth pages are pieces I found in a variety of areas. When we look at these norms, well, I'm going, maybe I'm going at this from an incorrect perspective, because my initial impulse is to say, what's missing? What's missing? What would you like to add or circle somewhere in the package that exists that is not on the first page? Sean?
Yeah, I think that the adherence to Robert's rules would be very helpful in maintaining what we need to do.
Okay, all right. So in terms of meeting norms, you'd like to see something saying with Robert's rules? Okay.
Can I add something to this?
It's what's missing. What would you like to add?
So I did do some reading about norms, and one of the things that it was just it's a little tweak, but I think it is effective. Where if you disagree with a board member or anyone, don't use their name. So just say the disagreement, but don't say like I disagree with this person, because it can come across as demeaning and hurtful. So especially if multiple people do it at the same time for one person. So that's a small tweak that
Okay. Avoid using names when disagreeing. Does that also apply when agreeing?
I guess when agreeing you can use the name.
Okay. All right, Ruby.
Another kind of process that I've seen have that similar effect, which I think this board has done in the past, is addressing the chair and that's part and parcel to Robert's rules, which might also be a way to get at what is being discussed. And I guess when I think of the norms of this document and how it guides us, although I don't mind putting that Robert's rules is what we adhere to and various kind of like these are the methods that we go about. To me, the norms are like a little bit more step back and how do we comport ourselves in the room. And they're one tool that we have, Robert's rules and it is a reference tool I have in my bag, that if I needed it, I could pull it out. But this isn't everything. It's really just helping us. And it's not just us. It's also people in Zoom land, it's administrators who are here, it's people who are in the room, students, everyone. How do we behave and how do we act amongst ourselves which is a little bit different than, identifying things like Robert's rules, or what are the things we actually do. But that being said, sometimes it's so important to identify it, it should be part of our norm.
As you look at this, what else would you like to see here that's missing? Even in terms of language, because language speaks volumes about how we understand something. Yeah.
I appreciate on number 5, where all voices equally, the practice the board has regularly engaged in around offering those who have yet to speak first opportunity over those who have spoken before. I appreciate that.
So is that addressed with number 5, that board discussions should include all voices equally?
I think inherently it is, it's not stated overtly. Perhaps there's an opportunity there.
It also means that we individually have to be mindful of our own voice, how often we've spoken, and maybe allow for silence. Jim?
Well, under shared responsibility, I'm reminded about what a former board member once said about being a responsible bystander. And when a point is made or a motion is made, for others to take the responsibility to weigh in positively, negatively, but don't let one person carry the water if it's an uncomfortable topic, or if you disagree with it, disagree respectfully. But the silence, is just not helpful to move forward as a group. So I think shared responsibility really means when something's on the table, it's for the board to discuss as a group.
So there are times when silence is a value, and then there are times when it actually deters us from doing our work.
Yeah, and then you have to ask why the silence?
Right.
Well, because you're maybe vulnerable if you take a position that's unfavorable to somebody else. It's that.
And then the other piece that I hear is a willingness to be vulnerable.
Oh, absolutamente.
Ruby?
Just to bounce off of that, I feel like the description of shared responsibilities is kind of lacking in my mind, because it really only refers to our shared responsibility to developing agendas. I would welcome, I don't want to draft it, but I would welcome that, a few words that kind of encompass what Tim has just said. But beyond that, I'm having a hard time finding something that's missing, that's so glaring that I'm uncomfortable with these norms myself.
Anything else? As we're going through this? Okay. Eva?
I mean, I understand that we do the Robert's Rule process, but the meetings are extremely formal. So maybe if there are aspects where we can loosen up and talk, have a conversation where it's not, cause I had somebody say that it's more formal than the House and the Senate, like it's very, so it's just trying to have more conversations, like people I think would be beneficial.
And yet, there are rules to the way we can have that conversation. And as I look at this, when you say, on the one hand, be less formal, but then on the other hand, as I look at this, addressing the chair, avoiding the use of names, that has a formal quality to it.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think it's a threat, so I think that there is, and we'll have to find that as we get more comfortable with each other. But it is, when you have it if you have it too formal, it does become hard to get to know each other and have conversations. So having that thread between loosening it up and having it formal.
Okay. Tim?
To get to Eva's point, again, I know I'm jumping ahead, but the governance court really addresses that well without the difficulty of having a frank, candid, deep, rich discussion under the formalities of Robert's rules and open meeting laws. And what they suggest, the authors suggest, are discussion meetings where you let down your hair a bit and not dispense with rules. But it's a good description. It's called discussion meetings, where the board is still an open meeting, still public, but it's understood that let's have a candid conversation about meaningful, important things. It's he described it very well in chapter 8.
So think about a meeting where things maybe go off the rails and we begin to digress. How should we handle that? For example, what happens if someone is speaking and perhaps we're now going down a rabbit hole? How do we bring it back to center? So I guess perhaps you'll say, well, that's why you're chair, Deborah. Right, thank you. Am I entitled to interrupt someone as a board chair? To say, is that a point of order? To say, let's bring it back to the topic at hand. Okay, but I think that's also your responsibility too, because I'm just one person listening to this, and it's hard to think in the moment as a fellow board member is speaking. To what extent can I interrupt? Is that rude? Is it inappropriate? I think we all need to practice this. Kim?
It's a fine line, and it's very hard to tread sometimes. And I think fortunately, Sean has those wonderful slate notes. So that helps knowing that we have 3 minutes for discussion, for somebody's.
He's holding about 2 minutes.
Oh, sorry, 2. So, I think that helps, but I do think, if somebody seems out of line, that we as a board, it's not just the chair's responsibility, that we do a point of order.
Yeah, I think we all need to come together with that. Ruby?
I wanted to share my thinking. When I look at these meeting norms, it has more to do with how we treat each other rather than how much time we're taking or how off topic we're getting. So I think those are 2 different things. And I completely agree. And at Putney Central School, we use these norms, similar norms to these. And actually in had practice of, there were times when we would, someone in the group would call up the norms and say, I think we're veering away from our norms, and I'm feeling uncomfortable about words that you're saying. And there have been times also when I was chair that I offline would approach, and this is I think something the chair would do, but could be any of us, approach another individual to say, when you said this, this was our one of our norms. It wasn't in keeping with our norm, and how can we change our behavior? So to me, it has much more to do with, if someone says something that's an ouch, if someone says something that's like, whoa, okay, like that's where it's not just avert your eyes and let it go away. It's saying amongst ourselves that you could say point of order, or it's really just like, let's call back our meeting norms. And that's why I actually like the idea of putting them up at the start of every meeting, because we should really have these at our fingertips.
There is something to be said in the moment of saying ouch, to address that discomfort in the moment. The problem with that is I'm not always sure about my level of discomfort, and I'm not always sure why I'm uncomfortable. But nevertheless, I think we have to trust in ourselves to address something in the moment as much as possible. I know the reading I've done about point of order says it's got to be done in the moment. If you let it pass, it's over, which is weird to me. Sean.
Yeah, I think that when you have 10 people together and they're dramatically divergent opinions, then it can be difficult. My opinion is that the board should not be an encounter group. It should be addressing the business at hand to run this huge district, and not play or try to work with an encounter group feeling. So that's 1 of 9. Thank you.
And so, just to clarify, Sean, is the use of perhaps an ouch, does that make you feel that it's an encounter group?
No, it's the fact that everything is presented on a personal basis. Everybody has to get along. Everybody has to, work together regardless of how they actually feel. That's why I like Robert's rules. You have a motion, you have a second, you have discussion, you have a vote. That would be my preference. So obviously we're not going to get there with this group of 10 people. But I think if we went a little bit in that direction, I'd be much more comfortable.
Yeah, well, thank you, Sean. I think Robert's rules is a given in terms, but there is an informal approach versus a formal approach. I think that's what we're talking about. Anne, did you want to say something earlier? I don't know. No. Okay.
I'm comfortable with these. I also agree with Sean that this is not an encounter group. We're not always going to get along. I don't think that we have necessarily such divergent opinions. I think to a great extent we all agree. And doesn't mean I don't think you should be able to say ouch, because you should. But we're here to do business, and sometimes I'm maybe not going to like Sean, and maybe Sean is not going to like me. That doesn't mean we can't keep getting business done. And we don't have to go have a 2-hour conference about why we don't get along. So we do, we've been getting along for a long time now.
Okay, we have Sean. Go ahead.
Yeah, just one more thing. The commonality that was just mentioned, I think, is we are all here, we're a board of a district. And so our focus is student success. And everything outside of that is tangential, in my mind. Number one, student success. And, you know, that encompasses everything, because it encompasses working collaboratively with admin and all staff, and trying to discover how can we make this school district actually the best it can possibly be. Thank you.
Okay, so Rudy.
I completely agree with what Sean just said. And I also think that one of the reasons I've appreciated these norms and appreciated the presence of students in the room through our reps is that I feel like we as schools, as teachers, we ask our students to come to the table, in restorative practices, to engage in meaningful and mindful ways. And so what I've appreciated about these norms is that it's us modeling behavior that I think we want to see in our students. And so from that perspective, I completely agree with what Sean said. And to me, it speaks to why these norms are so important.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Thoughts, observations? Okay, so when you look at the first page, I appreciate some of the edits that have been suggested, but when you look at the first page, I'm feeling as if you're buying into these norms as they are on the page. Okay, so if we want to make some changes to this, does anybody want to volunteer to tweak it, to add to it in some way?
I think for me, with the norms, it's really important that the board have a good relationship with one another. It doesn't have to be a friendship, but expecting good intentions, because it sets the tone in the district. And when I did some research about board and how you combat bullying, one of the most important things is the relationship with the superintendent. If you have a good relationship with the superintendent, that sets the tone for the entire district. Bullying, students see how we interact with one another, and they see how we interact with the superintendent. So if we're having arguments, or if we're thinking the worst of each other's intentions, that ricochets through the whole entire district. So even that simple thing of just getting along and that positivity, it reverberates. So that's why this is important, is it's setting that tone for the entire year.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, at least we've given this some thought as a new board, and I think that this issue, very directly without a warm-up exercise, can be addressed periodically. And that means that as you, as fellow board members, feel that something is going awry and we need to check ourselves and reconsider certain norms, reach out to Kim, reach out to me, reach out to each other, and we'll do this periodically, because I think Eva expressed it well just now in terms of what we need, what we want to do as board members. Okay. So I'm sure that you will give me some feedback about whether this was a worthy exercise or not. I looked to keep it as short as possible. We are ready, with your permission, to move to letter D. Evaluate the pros and cons of rotating board meeting sites. I would just like to start with a thank you to every administrator, every a group of teachers and staff who hosted our meetings. We started with Dummerston, we went to Guilford. Oak Grove was next on the list, but Oak Grove got snowed out. However, as a board, we got to experience Oak Grove sitting in the library for our board retreat. So Oak Grove is in the mix, thank you very much. And Green Street Academy, and then we ended with Putney Central last week. So it's been an incredible experience. And we agreed that we would assess this past year, moving from venue to venue. So that's what is on the agenda right now.
I'll start the
Please.
conversation.
Thank you.
I know it is difficult, especially for our student reps, to go to the meetings, but, and I understand we had technical issues at some of the spots, but I think it's a valuable thing that we do, actually going to the schools, going to the town, and being in that building. And I did appreciate, though I was not able to go on the tour because we had a little mix up with the meeting. But I appreciated what John Sessions did beforehand and had everybody, if they wanted to, come in early and take a tour of this, and he gave a tour of the school. And I think that, I know the board members that had not been to Putney before appreciated that. But I do find that there's value in going to the schools.
Tim.
So, the first time I ran into the board member, I visited every school. It's like imposition on the principals, I think, but it was an invaluable experience for me. Again, getting back to the book, he really recommends that board members go to schools, but not just go to the schools to see the physical plan, but to see the students, see the teachers in action, which we really can't do for board meetings. I think, given I'll just cut to the chase. I would be in favor of board members really making an effort to visit schools and to see teaching and talk to students. But to just go to a school because it's a different physical location and not see students, I don't think the benefits are worth it. Not to, at the same time, John Sessions, was such a wonderful, gracious host, and the LC brought us brownies. It was a really nice experience. But during the middle of winter, sitting in a cold room, and uncomfortable chairs and technical issues, I think we're going to continually run into that type of problem. So, board members visiting schools, absolutely, but let's do it in pairs or get together and do it, but not for board members meetings.
Sean.
I agree with what just said wholeheartedly. I think it's really important to see other schools. I've been doing this in this district for long enough, and I'm pretty familiar with every school site. And I also agree that it is somewhat of an imposition for a separate town, especially the outlying towns, to host a board meeting. You have to have the janitor there, the principal has to be there, and the building has to be open. And depending on the weather, it can be difficult. So I'd be in favor of keeping the board meetings in the Cusick room, with the exception would be if a principal would like to have the board specifically have their meeting at their school site, they could invite the board. Thank you.
Ruby.
I am of the opinion that this has been a real success this year, and while I understand and I agree that it you know, us going to the physical locations, it doesn't expose us to students, it doesn't expose us to the energy of the school. But it does help, you know, to see what's going on. You know, what does it look like? There was a roof going up at Putney Central. That was it. That was like fun to see. That wow, that's what we just voted on. But I just want to call into the space the idea that which is where the Programmatic and Performance Equity Committee who brought this up, where it came from, is the idea that we also want to create environments that make it easier for community members to participate. And I think it takes time for, especially in the post-COVID world, for community members to even understand where the meetings are and why you would want to come. And they can come on Zoom, but I heard from Putney community members who were there at the last meeting how much they appreciated it, and that they wanted to start banging the drums to get people to come. So that, because it's right in our backyard. And so that, for me, I think at a minimum, sticking with it another year and evaluating again at the end. I don't think it's fair to say, oh, Dummerston was a flop because it had it had technical difficulties. Let's try to fix some technical difficulties. I don't think that's a reason to not stay the course.
I agree. I think there's value in going to the other schools. However, I would like to point out, we can't just try to fix the technical issues in light of recent changes to open meeting law. We have to fix the technical issues if we're going to use other schools. Because not Zooming the parent is no longer an option.
Okay, other comment? Eva?
I really like the idea of the visiting the school in pairs. This is separate from what we're discussing. It would be nice if, like, if, say, Tim is visiting, like, hey, I'm going to Oak Grove, anybody want to join? Like, it'd be nice if we went together, because it'd be nice to have the input where we talk with each other afterwards.
That's out there, that's open. I know that's how I've done it. Tim and I have paired up, Lana, Deborah and I have paired up, going to schools. And I do think that principals are delighted to have us visit their schools. I think teachers are delighted to have us on site. I'm always introduced in such a way that it's a bit unnerving. It's sort of like, well, what makes me so special here? But we like to show off what we do well. And that's the energy that I've gotten in visiting. I'm gonna open this up, okay? Hannah?
A couple things. One is, I think, for me personally, being the principal of the high school, I think it is very limiting for student representatives to be able to drive and be in all these different places. And so just the equity piece of, like, if we want student representatives on the board, it needs to be accessible for them. And if we're meeting in all these different locations in various places at various distances from here, it's limiting. I will also echo, like, Brian, when he started on the board, reached out to me to ask for a tour of the school, so he came here to visit. Tim and Deborah have come. Like, I think for me, those are way more valuable as a building administrator, for you to see the active work happening during the school day than sitting in an empty school that doesn't have the action happening at. So I would just encourage you to consider, like, what is the value of student voice as part of the process as you move forward.
There have been times in the past when more than just the student reps have been present, but there have been other students present coming into a board meeting. And they're coming to this site. And for the most part, they are middle and upper division students. So this whole complex is accessible. Other comment about this? So would we like to do as a board for next year? We've come to the end. Putney Central was our last site. So I'd like to have a plan as we go into August when the system reopens. Tim?
I like Sean's compromise. If the principal wants to invite us, let that happen, and then maybe we can work out some travel accommodations for student reps. Although they don't stay for the whole meeting sometimes too. But I don't know. I think that's a compromise, just to be invited to schools.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you raise a big issue about arrange for transportation for our student reps. I mean, I think of D7, volunteers and work study. That's a big issue. We really do have to be fully vetted to have a child, a minor, come into our vehicle, and I don't care whether the person is 18 or 19 years old, emancipated. I have a problem with it. That's a huge responsibility.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, so the issue of, going to Hannah's point, the issue of transportation is still there, right? And that has been huge this year for our 2 student reps. It doesn't account for every time they're not with us, but it has been pretty big. Other comment?
I have
Eva?
an idea, it might sound outlandish, but can a board member go to when the students have lunch and see what the food looks like and?
That's at the will of the principal.
Okay.
That's the will of the principal, and I know when I've visited, I want to see the kitchen. I want to see, and certainly Tim and I have had lunch I've had lunch at BAMS, I've had lunch at BUHS, although I think it's the same food.
Mm-hmm.
It is the same food, okay, I've
BAMS
had lunch there
has better
multiple
foods.
times. So, yes, that is something that you would write to a principal and say, I'd love to come, I'd love to sit in on a class, can I have lunch in the cafeteria, can I join you? That's
Okay,
to work out,
thank you.
right. And I do think it's helpful to do it in pairs.
Yeah.
I think that board members going in pairs, even as we split up, even as we stay together, you get conversation going, right? Did you notice? I know Tim and I, was it last year, at the end of the school year, we attended one of the last classes for a STEM class. That was
That's
amazing.
right. I have to say, the coffee at BUHS is excellent.
I agree.
Okay, well, thank you very much, okay. I think humor at meetings is essential. Ruby?
I think I have so appreciated student voices. I've appreciated them also when they are on Zoom, and so I just want to call out that whether it's a student or a community member or a board member, we have been utilizing Zoom as a tool in a very valuable way. So I just want to acknowledge that. And I am going to kind of take a page out of Tim's book and make a motion. I move that we stay the course and continue to rotate meetings in the coming year.
Second.
Okay, we are up for discussion on this one. So the motion on the floor is that we stay the course and we continue doing something very similar as we go into the next school year. That is the motion.
Can we do the,
Wait 1 second. Matt,
I will note that Tracy and I have been taking notes for the meeting. In the efforts for the pros and cons, we noted 3 distinct pros and 9 distinct cons. in our pros and cons exploration.
Are we talking about, how many schools are we talking about visiting? And how many good months of weather do we have to
Yeah.
divide it up into?
So I have down, Dummerston, Guilford, Oak Grove, Green Street Academy, Putney Central. So that is 6 schools, and we're leaving out bands and BUHS. I don't know why.
Because this is the best space to meet.
I know, excuse me, I do know why, I realize we're here, yes. Because you've determined that this is the best place for us to be.
Yes.
Right. Okay, 2 schools, Matt and then Ruby.
And EES as well.
I'm sorry,
And
EES.
EES, Early Education Services, as a site as well.
so true. So true. Ruby,
And just to harken back to where this all came from, the Programmatic and Performance Equity Committee created kind of a framework of suggestions of what sites there could be. We thought about the winter months and not having the farthest locations be in the dead of winter. And we gave those to Mark, and Mark then took those with administrators and formulated those into the current plan, including, making a determination that rather than have a BOHS and a BAM separate, that we were here and this was our location at this particular site. So that was, that's where those came from. And similarly, I think EES, the logistics, my sense was the logistics around the EES thing were in the pros and cons that were determined. That's where that was dropped. But yes, that's true. EES was one that we identified.
I think there is value.
Eva, I'm gonna call on you, that's okay. I just wanna hold on to that. We sort of talked about that as a community norm. Eva.
I do think there is value in the board being present at a school, different school every month and showing a presence. I do think there's a value there that would be lost if you weren't doing the rotation.
Okay, Tim.
A modification of your motion could be that we do it on a biannual basis. So we've seen Putney this year, skip next year, and then see it the following year, cutting down the number of schools, so we only visit schools perhaps in September, October, November, and May, April, May, and June.
I don't.
That's a possibility, yes.
I don't, for me, that doesn't address, I don't know that amendment is favorable to me. I can go on about why, but that's just.
Well, you know what, I would like to hear why.
So I think that there are 2 distinct issues. One is we as board members have access to schools, and the other is our community members in these certain towns at these sites have access to us in our meeting. And so we're bringing the show to these community members in these locations, and that's the most important thing in my mind. So the idea of, only going to Dummerston every other year means that we're not creating a culture, we're not creating a world in which we're bringing the show to Dummerston on a consistent basis. And I think that we lose an opportunity to kind of help people to engage with us. It's a process. Like, we've got to teach our community how to engage with us. And so I think, that's why, from my perspective, stay the course, see if we can figure it out a second year makes the most sense.
I certainly know, just to chime in, I noticed that, yes, I'm sorry.
I just counted up the schools with the pre-K at Canal. Will be a total of 8 schools.
Okay, all right. And it presupposes that a pre-K location can accommodate adult bodies, more than 10 adult bodies. We've got administrators present. So we would certainly need to figure that out. the motion to continue to rotate venues, if the motion passes, I just want to understand this, if the motion passes, we would continue to rotate venues. If the motion fails, does that presuppose that we will not, that we will stay in the acoustic? It's binary, it's either or. Okay, it's either or. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. One of the things that strikes me is that in terms of community engagement, as we go to a site, I really did not see community engagement as we went from site to site. I did not see community engagement on Zoom. And in fact, depending upon what was going on at a board meeting, community engagement was in the acoustic room. That's what I'm perceiving. So, I don't know, school after school, I did not see community members, either in person or on Zoom. Okay, any other comment about this motion as it exists? Brian?
I just have a question. One of the compelling reasons for staying here that I heard was that it would be helpful for student representatives to not have to worry about transportation. So my question is there an alternative transportation or what transportation is available for them? Is there something that can help with that or not, if we don't meet here?
I'm gonna say no. I mean, I think if the student has transportation, then obviously they can drive themselves. But like even during the school day, we are limited in the building for being able to transport students. I had to transport a student the other day in an emergent situation, not emergent, but, and I had a faculty member go with me just because, like Deborah was saying, it's a huge liability to be in a car with a student, and I think there'd be a lot of barriers to that.
And just to respond, I've been fingerprinted and vetted, so ostensibly a student could be in my car. No, I'm sorry, I'm uncomfortable with that, that's huge. Another adult, yes. I'm gonna take it back to Brian and then we'll circle around. Kim, did you wanna add?
It was about the
Yes.
student topic.
Yes.
Do we know, we have one rep so far, do we know where they're from? And where the second rep is from?
We don't. We don't.
Because we're making assumptions that these are Brattleboro students.
Yeah.
And they could be Putney, Dummerston,
I
Guilford
will say
students.
though, like just from my perspective in this building, if you are from an outlying town, you have means of transportation because you've grown up that way. So I think like a Dummerston representative might have an easier time being able to figure that out, or they're like, you know, typically they're at an event that they're participating in an after school activity and they walk and get dinner across the street and then they come to the board meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Could I make a friendly amendment that we would not go, or, well, I guess I can't because it's a positive negative. But the friendly amendment would be somehow we could go to a school upon a specific invitation from the principal of that school. In other words, if they felt like it'd be really nice to have the board here, they invite us, and then we make arrangements to have a meeting at that site.
I'm looking around the room. I'm sorry, Tim, you're pointing at.
No, Hannah's right,
Hannah had her hand up, okay. Well, before I call on Hannah, I saw Ruby have a reaction.
Right, I'm not, it's not agreeable to me that.
Got it. I just wanna put that out there. And maybe the motion that's on the floor to continue to rotate venues for the coming year needs to be addressed first. Because if that motion were to fail, a principal can surely invite us, and it would be at our discretion to say thank you or no thank you. It's not convenient, okay? So maybe the motion needs to stay as is. Did you want to add something?
I just wanted to say, and I hope this is true for everybody, I would say any principal in this district would love and welcome any of you to come to our schools at any time. I think asking us to like send out an invitation probably is not gonna happen. I mean, like anytime we have events, we post on Facebook, we do, you know, So I think anytime that stuff is out there, you know, we just had a beautiful senior art show, we just had our Pops concert, like great events. But I think that there's an open invitation anytime a board member wants to come, say to the high school.
It is, now, 7:17. Can we, figure out what we're doing with this motion? Let's take a vote. Are we ready to bring it to a vote? We're sort of waiting for someone to call the question. Well, we don't need to do that.
We've already made a motion,
Okay,
and we're done with discussion, so we can just vote.
got it.
And
Okay.
you probably wanted
I,
two pieces of paper.
I have a piece out, I don't have my little form out, I forgot to bring my form. But, yes, but I'm also, just for my records, also going, to take notes. So the motion, can I hear the motion back, please?
Yeah, the motion was that the board stay the course and rotate the meeting sites throughout the year.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna start with Colleen, and I know that she is absent. Colleen, are you online?
Do we need, I thought we only had to do a roll call if someone abstained or
Well,
Or votes
we've
no.
got someone
or
absent.
votes no.
Or votes no,
Usually
yes, we have to go through the detail, yeah.
Fair.
So that's why
Fair, sure.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I am assuming based upon comments that I've heard in the room. Okay, here goes. So Colleen. She is absent. Okay, can I just go down the line? Anne.
Aye.
Okay. Kim.
Aye.
Eva. Aye. Tim.
Nay.
Okay, Brian.
Nay.
Sean.
Nay.
Matt.
Aye.
Aye.
Ruby.
Aye.
Okay, aye. Okay, let me make sure I'm putting it in the right spot. And I am going to vote, and I'm going to vote nay. Okay, so we've got 4 nays, and we've got 5 ayes. Does that mean the ayes have it?
Yeah.
That means the ayes have it, okay, yes, okay.
you were good at math.
So 5 is more than 4. Yes, okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we will, I'm sorry,
Point of order.
Yes.
I didn't hear your vote.
my vote was no. Nay.
1,
So the nays, let's make sure I got this right. The nays are Tim, Brian, Sean, and Deborah.
oh, yeah.
Okay, and the ayes are Ann, Kim, Eva, Matt, and Ruby. Correct? Have I misstated anybody? No. Okay, so be it. So, the ayes have it. I am going to suggest, as we consider next year, that we be very careful about, the heavy winter months. And travel considerations, because this location, quite frankly, makes the most sense for the majority of us during those heavy winter months. So, we'll work something out. Okay. Thank you, and let's go to, the last, item, other unresolved issues. I would, like to just, and then we'll take a 5-minute break, okay? I'd like to acknowledge that this is Paul Smith's last official board meeting. And somehow he's, he looks relaxed and, yeah, no, yes, like get a little grim there, please. And, the obvious obvious is a resounding thank you for your guidance at board meetings. But I'd like to acknowledge the last 2 years. Personally, I am particularly appreciative of your institutional wisdom on the Policy and Amendment Committee as we have navigated the complexities, the intricacies, and the gray areas of policy. I'm grateful for my timing on the board, that I overlap with you, my early years with your later years. There will always be the era of Paul Smith. And then the after, which is for those who come after to make their mark. On behalf of the WSESD School Board, I thank you for your many, many years of service. Thank you, Paul Smith. With that, I would like to take a 5-minute break. It is 7:23, let's make it a 7-minute break. Come back at 7:30. Thank you. Thank you. 7:30. So we are reconvening the WSESD School Board meeting.
Until I get
And,
I need to show them, you know.
We are about to return with the administrative report. So, Mark?
Sure.
Thank you.
So I thought we would touch base a little bit on the work around portrait of a graduate. I know recently Bryn helped facilitate a meeting with representatives from all of our schools and some school board members as well. So I thought I'd ask Bryn for just a couple minutes, kind of share what that day looked like and what it's looking like for next year.
Sure. So Portrait of a Graduate work is really work that is getting input from the whole community and various representatives from our community to really inform what kind of skills and capabilities do we want students graduating from our BUHS and WRC system with. And part of this work started with the NEASC accreditation work that was happening at BUHS, where we really want all of our courses to be aligned with our Portrait of a Graduate. There is a Vermont Portrait of a Graduate that I know we've done some work with before, but it felt really important, and we are getting support from the Agency of Education in Vermont to really align that work for what does that look like in our community for our students. So through a generous grant through the AOE, we had the opportunity to work with Jeannie Phillips, who is a consultant through Great Schools Partnership that does a lot of this school change and facilitation work. So Jeannie joined us for the afternoon of Friday, May 17th, to help give some background about what is Portrait of a Graduate and to lay some foundational work with our committee to just kind of ruminate on and think about to start our planning work for next year. And the other thing we really realized is Portrait of a Graduate work is not high school work. It's actually work that starts with our preschool programs. We're thinking about what kind of skills and work and qualities do we want to help grow in our students starting at the very beginning of their school experience here in our community and even before. So we had representatives from EES, from pre-K, from many of our school sites. We had teachers, board members, principals, counselors, so it was quite a diverse crew that took time out of their very busy end of the year classrooms to come together. We read some background information about Portrait of a Graduate and did a text rendering protocol to see what sentences and phrases and words spoke to us, a little similar to the norms activity that you did earlier today. We looked at some sample Portrait of a Graduate, portraits of graduates, I guess, from around the country and looked at very specific questions to examine those together. And then we started identifying what kinds of diverse stakeholders from our community might have important voice to lend to this work when we embark on it next fall. And we had a pretty wide process to brainstorm those and then combine those into some overarching themes. And I think the last outcome that we had is members who were introduced to that work and who are interested in being on kind of a steering committee for next year identified themselves. And so as we continue doing a little consulting with Great Schools Partnership and laying the foundation and planning for next year, we'll definitely reach out to those folks to help with the work. The goal would be to clarify and identify our WSESU Portrait of a Graduate by a year from now, a little less. And then that becomes really kind of a compass and a steering point to do all of our work and decision making in the district, ideally with really, really diverse voices lending themselves to share our dreams for kids who graduate from our system. So that's in a nutshell. Some of you were also here, so anyone else chime in? I think in general the group felt really excited about the work. Jeannie did a fantastic job facilitating with us that day.
Any
How many
questions?
people are in that group?
There were about 17 that attended that day, and of those, I believe 12 or 13 said, yeah, I'm interested in continuing this work. A couple of people said, I don't think I'm available, but here's a couple of resources at my site to reach out to.
Do you have board representation in the group?
We do. Yeah, we had 2 board members attend on the 17th.
That's
Yep,
great.
Tim and Ruby were there.
Thank you. Tim?
I thought it was a fantastic meeting. We looked at different models of portraits from other districts, which was very beneficial. It was a very interactive session. But what was most exciting for me was the community engagement theme of the whole thing. Because community schools is a concept that not a lot of board members know yet. I urge you to look into the whole concept of community schools. And the work of this committee, I think there's a chance that we can glean a lot from community schools and make those really deep connections with our community that we haven't made yet. So that's an exciting part of it. And it's such a diverse group. Ruby, what do you think?
I completely agree. I also want to just echo what Bryn said. I thought the facilitation was excellent, and that's after I feel like I had a run of facilitated meetings, so I was starting to feel like my head was spinning, and she engaged, and it went quickly, and I felt like I really got a lot out of each of those moments with, as we rotated through. So I was really happy to put my name down as interested because it just feels like a vital, wonderful process. So thank you for putting that together.
Terrific.
Stay tuned. More to come next fall.
Awesome. Thank you, Bryn. Special time of year for students and staff and families, as you know, as we have preparing for graduations. Just wanted to give an update. Putney Central School will host their graduation on Monday, June 10th. Essentially, all of our other elementary schools will have their graduation on Tuesday, June 11th. And these typically start around 6 o'clock. And then, of course, the big one, UHS graduation on Friday, the 21st. I believe starting at 6:30. Yeah. And then the other night that is coming up on June 20th is the awards night that the school will host. And it's a pretty amazing event, and the amount of money that gets distributed to our students is really, really impressive. I don't have the figure off the top of my head, but we're talking about a pretty significant amount of money that will be awarded to our children.
Just to clarify, it's just senior awards.
Senior awards, yeah. On the 20th. Can you give a ballpark, Frank?
It's over $200,000 generally.
So for our community to award that amount of scholarship the night before high school graduation is pretty impressive. So it says a lot about our communities. Lastly, before we get into some new hires, just touching base again on our board admin retreat on the 18th. The agenda is coming together. I've sent kind of a summary agenda to folks. Tonight is just another plea to dig into the governance core a little bit. At the very least, if you could read the introduction, that would be great. Early next week, I'm hoping to finalize the slide deck and send a full presentation to all members of the board and the administration so that you have time to prepare before the retreat. And during that, when I share that slide deck, you'll also be assigned a specific chapter to the governance core. So at the very least, we're hoping each person reads the introduction and the chapter that they're assigned. Ideally, you've had an opportunity to read more than that. But that's kind of the benchmark that we're looking for. And we are putting together some protocols for how we work together in small groups to share our thoughts on our chapters, and then how we come back together as a full team to share those thoughts. Elaine Pinkney will be there to help facilitate. She's done this multiple times with board teams and administrative teams, so she has some experience with that.
Before you move on, can I give a plug for this? The introduction is 10 pages long. That's it. So one way of treating this text is actually to crack the binding and then, a little bit of osmosis or something. But look at the chapter titles. Look at the subtitles, the sections under each title. You don't have to read this in consecutive order. Pick out the chapters, the sections that are most meaningful to you, and bounce around like that. But this was a shared book reading for all of us, admin and board, and I would certainly like this. This appeals to me and my style. I would certainly like this to continue, that we come up with relatively short texts that we can share over the course of the year. And they do not have to be specific to, this is about the board per se, but certainly specific to what it means to interact with each other, what it means to be a human being. So as you think of texts that might be of interest, please send them our way. It's this time of year that we, I think, want to get these options going.
Great idea. Okay, more specific information will be coming out around UHS graduation as well, once we move closer to June 21st. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we have good weather.
Yes, yeah.
We're all together outside on the football field celebrating our children. So we'll know more as we get closer to the 21st. In terms of, I have 4 new hires, 1 resignation. We'll start with the resignation. Second grade teacher Meg Chingari over at Green Street School will be moving on to actually another position within our school district. So we're not losing her, but I'll be announcing that at the next SU meeting. So that resignation.
So is there a motion to accept this resignation?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have 4 new hires. Catherine Long, 4th grade position at Oak Grove School. Christy Kratza, Academy School counseling position. Sarah Noble DeZura, I think I pronounced that correctly, a 2nd grade teacher at Green Street School. And then Krista Cozzolino, who's a current 5th grade teacher at Green Street. She's going to move on to the social worker position next year at Green Street School. So that's a transfer.
All right, so is there a motion to accept for employment Catherine Long, Christy Kratza, Sarah Noble DeSora, and Krista Cozzolino? Cozzolino. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
thank you. Any discussion?
I just have a question. Mark, is it Is it pretty common practice to ask new teachers, teacher applicants to do a demo class?
I wouldn't say it's standard process. There are principals who have done that and asked candidates to do that. And then certainly the more standard process is the interview, the background check, and the communication with former employees. But that has been done for sure.
Because I know at BAMS they had demo classes and then student feedback. I thought the student feedback would be very valuable.
Yeah.
And just watching a demo class.
Yep.
But it's just up to the principal to decide whether to do that.
Yeah, and the hiring committee. Yeah.
All right.
I have noticed that there are multiple applications for positions. So I know Mike Callender is not here, so that looks like they're doing a good job on that.
Yeah, we're making some progress in terms of our candidate pools this year. Which is really exciting.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's great, yeah. And so there is a motion afloat. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's it for me for
Okay,
tonight.
that's it. So we are now,
Sorry.
that's okay, Ruby.
I realized after you talked about the graduation thing that there is not a meeting between now and the VUHS graduation. And I just wanted to let everyone know that I have family obligations that day, so I will not be attending VUHS's graduation, which bums me out a little bit, but hopefully other board members can attend. I think that was the goal, was to have as many attend as possible.
Well, there is a motion that, a recommendation that board members, if possible, attend graduation. Yeah, which is not diminishing the graduation of other schools. I just want to say that. It's just that BUHS, everything culminates in this high school, experience. So, thank you for letting us know, Ruby. And then the next board meeting is on June 25th, right, which is the regular schedule.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're okay for that. Okay. Matt,
I see Mary Kaufman has her hand.
I'm sorry?
I see Mary Kaufman has her hand.
Thank you very much, thank you.
Fall down on my job.
Mary, thank you.
Hi, sorry, I was putting the baby to bed before, so this might have already been said, but as we talk about graduations and celebration, I just wanted to invite everybody to the Brattleboro Early Childhood Center open house. I don't know if that got mentioned, but it is this Thursday from 4:30 to 6, right at the Canal Street School. Oh, is there already something?
No, this is great, Mary. Thank you for
sorry.
sharing this. No.
Yeah, it's just really, it's a great opportunity to come and see the building. There's been a lot of work done in the classrooms. We are looking for enrollment. So if you know kids who are going to be 4 by September 1st, we are happy to have them. It's really, the team has done a lovely job putting some really beautiful touches on the new classroom. And so it'd be awesome to have some of you come and visit.
Yes. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, of course.
4:30 to 6.
4:30.
Yeah. There will be light refreshments available.
There is so much taking place during the next 2 to 3 weeks. It's just, it's so typical of the end of the school year. It can't get more packed. Before we move on to fiscal. Yes, thank you, Mary, thank you. Sean?
Yeah, I just had a question. Can pre-K students from other towns enroll for Canal Street, or is that just for?
This would be a Brattleboro program. Yeah.
And most of the work has been done at the SU level, so that's why it hasn't been brought up here, but it will be a Brattleboro opportunity for kids in Brattleboro just to expand our pre-K options, because right now Oak Grove is the only site. So we definitely have a need.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we're ready to move on to the fiscal report. Oh, Kate, I'm so sorry. Great, okay. Kate Margardis, Green Street School. You may have.
Sorry, I'm in my car because I lost internet at home. So I'm in my car. I'm just wondering if before the next board meeting, because I'm doing hiring, and was hoping to have my other second grade teacher approved today, if there is time before then to have any new hires approved before the end of June.
I have one too.
I also do.
So maybe the personnel committee?
Well,
We would have to vote to give personnel that power for the summer.
and so when is personnel meeting again?
Tomorrow.
You're meeting tomorrow?
But we can meet whenever
You can
we
meet,
know we
yeah.
drop them down.
You can meet at, okay,
You know, 4 of us.
great. So, fiscal report is on hold for the moment. We have now, this is not on the,
Hiring and resignations are on the agenda.
there it is. Okay, motionable. Thank you very much. Good. So, does someone want to make a motion? With this in mind. Matt?
I move that we give authority to the personnel committee to accept hiring and resignation recommendations from administration for the duration of the summer.
We got a second to that motion. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Tim?
Did you say how many members on the committee?
Currently 4, unless Matt is gonna come back to us.
So.
He was having scheduling issues, so.
Okay.
So with that in mind, who is on the committee, please?
Well, actually, from this board, it's me, Kim, and Colleen, and then Carrie Amadon is from the SU.
Right.
It's one more member than we had last year.
Okay. And Carrie. All right. Okay.
So it's a bit unusual because your committee with a non-quorum of the regular board would be approving hires.
It's past practice to do that for the summer, but if this board wishes to not do it that way,
Yeah.
then we don't do it that way. But that's just been a summer practice
Yeah.
for many, many years.
And I think it very often gets, it's a summer practice also for the finance committee to approve any bids or any issues that come up over the course of the summer. That certainly has taken place the last 2 years that I've been on the board. So
And
that's where we are right now. Kim?
And I believe part of the issue is that having to get together very quickly and making sure you have quorum, it's almost impossible.
I'm looking at a doodle right now, and I'm just going down the line to see who's available, who isn't, what are the needs, what's the next, let's say, executive session or meeting that needs to take place. So, any further discussion about this? Okay, certainly the hiring decisions that need to, potential employees need to know that they have a contract as quickly as possible. So, if there is no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, can you just restate that motion, please, Matt?
That the board give authority to the personnel committee to accept hiring and resignation recommendations from administration for the summer months.
Okay, with no further discussion, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, please indicate by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Okay, passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much
And
appreciated.
Kate, if you could email me.
Thank you.
If you could email me that, it's like tomorrow or tonight.
Okay,
I'll do it tonight once I get internet back up.
Thanks, Kate.
okay, and then just for the clarity of my own record keeping, when this comes through to the personnel committee and you're making these decisions, can you just copy me as board chair? Thank you very much.
And
Thank you.
Mayor,
Thank you for doing that.
Okay, there's, yes, go ahead.
I just, sorry, Ruby. I just wanna make sure, Mark, that we're still gonna follow the same protocol where Mo will send it out to the board chair and we'll disseminate it to the entire board, you know, the new hires.
Yep.
Even though that's, the process will be with personnel committee, but everybody on the board will get all of
that information.
still receive the information.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I did not realize that, but it's something that I will send out to everybody, and then it is on personnel committee to do that work. Okay, I'm going around and Fiscal, you're on hold. Sorry about that. Ruby.
just verifying that the action of the personnel committee will be reported in the committees section. Like if you appoint someone, yeah. Okay, that's all.
Okay, can you say that more clearly so that I can,
Sure.
it was like a shorthand way of.
Is the just confirming that the action of the personnel committee will be confirmed in the committee reports at each board meeting.
Got it,
Right.
yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Keith, Liner.
Quick clarification. So I have someone who accepted a position last night and working on getting the paperwork to central office. Your meeting tomorrow is like
4:30.
like it might, so are we bypassing, how are we getting that? Am I sending it directly to you, Deborah, or is Mo sending it? How does that work? Because normally we have to get it in on a Thursday before a Tuesday meeting.
Yeah,
Send it to Mo directly and she'll forward it to Deborah in the personnel committee.
Okay, thanks.
So I think we're gonna go through the same process. Everything will get funneled through me. I will send it out to the full board immediately and without a prompt. Personnel now picks it up.
Okay.
It's not a board issue. It's not a full board issue at a board meeting. It's rather going to this committee. Right.
Thanks.
But if anyone on the board who has anything to say about any candidate, please come before we hire them and tell us about it.
So pay attention to those emails, as I'm sure you all do already. Read about the candidates. I mean, it was very important to me as a board member that I not just agree to hire someone by virtue of name. I very much wanted to see CV, and then a number of us wanted to see the responses to those two pivotal questions.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you very, very much. Any other issues before we move on to fiscal? All right, thank you. Frank.
Alrighty, so as Sean mentioned, the Finance Committee met yesterday afternoon. We went over the year-to-date financial statements for the Windham South East School District. Just a very quick recap of our $64.6 million budget. We've spent year-to-date about $55 million. And we have about $9 million in open purchase orders, encumbrances. Most of that is salary and benefit contracts, which leaves us with about, at this point, 0.5% variance to the budget on the expenditure side, and that's what we would expect this time of year. We did go over the various sort of formats of financial statements, all of which we also are preparing for the audit for the fiscal year ending June, just a few days away. So there were a number of questions, primarily around some of the variances, and as we noted in the committee meeting, most of them are associated with projects that are in process, and I'll give you a quick report on that as well. Once we define last payment applications from our contractors. We will match up grant-funded projects with expenditures, and I expect that part of the budget to be very close to the plan. So in general, good fiscal condition with just a few days left in the fiscal year. John, anything to add to that?
I would just like to say that we had an hour meeting yesterday, or an hour and 15 minutes, at the central office starting at 1. And Frank gave the overview that he just spoke of. And it's just so impressive to see the care and the accuracy and the accounting that goes into this expenditure, but also the capital plan. And it made me realize that John Sessions sent everybody a thank you for approving the roof at Putney when we were up there on Tuesday. And I thought that probably couldn't have happened without Robert Clark and Frank. So, you know, I'm overwhelmed with, you know, the accuracy and the dedication, and also the whole statement of the bottom line is student success. And that's, I mean, that's it. That's everything that was done. And it's just very impressive.
Appreciate those comments, Sean, and you know, it is obviously a reflection of a real team that we have at the central office and in our facility managers, working with our principals, you know, very, very connected throughout the system. But yeah, we really appreciate that acknowledgement. So the other part of our agenda was to review some of our projects. I won't go through, you know, I've mentioned a couple of times now, giving you an overview of the capital plan. We have about 100 open projects. I'll just give you a quick summary of the 10 that are either in process right as we speak, or they are pending awards. They do all correlate with the capital plan that the board approved back in January for fiscal year 25. And they also correlate with this current fiscal year, which the board approved the capital plan back in May of 2023. So I'll just go through the building open projects that are, as I say, pending or have been awarded and are being constructed now. So here at the high school, the Tenney Field improvement. So there's the grandstand and then there's the field. That bid award has been assigned to J. Evans Construction. It was $372,000. They will be starting right away and expect to have that field in great shape before the fall season. The Tenney Field grandstand project, that is primarily oriented toward an outdoor learning center. It's restoring the grandstand as an accessible facility for students and our community. We're looking to establish an initial 150 student seating capacity and or, you know, open to the public. We did have a bid opening on this past Thursday. We only had one bidder and it was substantially more than our budget. So we are looking at scaling back the scope of the work. We're working with the design architect and some consultants to address that. I would like in the minutes just a report, because I'll have to send this kind of meeting minutes to the Agency of Ed. This is a project that is associated with the ESSER funding, and we need board minutes sent to the Agency of Ed as part of our application process, indicating that the board has supported utilizing the ESSER funding for this improvement. This was also part of the capital plan, so this is kind of a restatement of what we've already discussed, but important that I can take a current meeting and send that along. I'm expecting a revised bid process later in June and a bid opening in early July. So that one might be one where we do the same thing you just did with the personnel committee, authorizing finance to move forward. So those are two active projects at the high school, at Guilford.
Can I just stop you 1 second? If there are questions about a given project that Frank is going through right now, maybe it would be best to address those questions as the project is presented to us, rather than waiting for the conclusion.
Sure.
I have one issue, and that is, do you need anything further from the board other than the minutes being sent?
No, in that generally the vote from the board on January 23rd of 2024, you recall how we discussed that as authorization to proceed with design, the RFP process and bid award, and I've been implementing those projects. Where there's an exception is if there's specific grant funding criteria that requires a separate action. So this is the last of the ESSER funding projects that have not already been awarded.
Any questions about this project? Tim?
The first one you mentioned for the fields, the Evans contract.
Yep.
Could you say a little more about what that entails? What is?
Sure. The scope of work is to essentially replace the turf and restore the baseball diamond. It does expand the field so that more sports are able to be played on that, it is still within the context of an existing grandstand project. At one point, there was a plan to raise the old structure and expand the field much larger, but this is a plan that, as I said, has been essentially committed to since last.
Is this
last year.
funded also?
No.
And how much was it?
$372,000. We do expect that scale of the project, the scope of work, to be revisited now that we've had discussion with the successful bidder, and I think we'll be looking at a number that's closer to $330,000 when we're done, but that's to be negotiated.
And when's the date of completion estimated?
I believe it's September.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
And on a related note, because I know past years with a lot of talk has been around the football field and how we're addressing that, it's likely that we will be replacing the turf in the fall on the football field at the conclusion of the season. And hopefully it will germinate throughout the winter months and be ready to go for the following school year.
So Netherwich would be closed all next year?
In the spring of next year?
The spring, yeah.
Just in the spring?
Yeah.
So Natowich would be closed in the winter to reopen in the spring with new turf.
It's going to be resodded.
Resodded,
It's going to be resodded at the conclusion of the fall sports season.
Right.
And then we'll see how it's looking after the winter.
Okay. And if it's not ready for team sports, other arrangements will be made.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And Tenny will have just been dealt with, and that field hasn't for many, many years. So that surface will improve greatly next spring.
Okay. Eva.
So was this presented to the SU?
The Supervisory Union Board doesn't address capital projects.
So when, because there's some things like, there's some questions I have, like, for instance, how long will this last? 372,000, is this 5 years or 6 years? Like how long, like when would we have to redo this?
Well, the last improvement's probably been at least 25 years, so,
Okay.
It's something to that order of magnitude.
To Natowich or to Tenny?
I assume you're asking about Tenny?
10, yeah.
Yeah.
That which was last serviced in 1965.
I'm just a little perplexed because I've been watching other board meetings, and when there are capital management plans such as this, they present it to the board, they talk about, the benefits, and then the board is a part of the process, so it approves it, it asks questions, it says, okay, this contract, why did you choose this contractor versus the other? And it doesn't feel, I remember we had the discussion about Tenny, but it just feels like there's a signing of approval, but the process of us just sort of ends at that we're not a part of it. And other boards members, other boards seem to be more a part of the process with capital management plans. So I'm just a little bit perplexed as to why we didn't have any input on this decision at all.
Well, I would say, and Sean can jump in, but the capital plan is a perpetual process. It doesn't just like start on a day in any given fiscal year. It is a evaluation of the useful life of all the assets that the district owns. And I don't think you were part of the finance committee earlier in the year, but that's where the finance committee spends most of its time from September all the way through till February, looking at each one of those 100 projects. Typically in a year, it's more like 30 or 40 projects. And then this time of year, we have the combination of projects wrapping up in one fiscal year and new projects coming online. But the Finance Committee has been very, very engaged in the development of this plan and then the implementation. We generally report on any deviations from the plan. So to your point, the board stays involved and informed.
It just seemed like we were having, because we were talking like coconut fields and like coconut mulch, and it was like there was a really like intense discussion that was very interesting. And then we were going to be doing a survey of the ground. We had somebody coming in to do a survey, and then that just the conversation ended. And now I'm here, and its decision has been made.
Yeah, so that was 4 years ago when there was a proposal to do synthetic turf. And after all of that discussion that you are recalling 4 years ago, maybe it was going on 5 years, that was an addressed issue. That was no longer of interest to the board or to the capital planning process. So essentially the conclusion of that was that we will maintain a commitment to a natural turf, grass turf, and as a result, what Mark just referred to is primarily a maintenance effort. It's not the entire field. It's not what was at one time contemplated where it'd be like $250,000 full replacement. But what Mark's referring to is the highest traffic area on the Natowich field, which is the center, I don't know what you would call it, center third, center whatever.
Between the hash marks.
Yeah, between the hash marks. That section, this is like more of a maintenance exercise. It's not a full field rebuild, as what you're referring to years ago was being contemplated.
So I just want to piggyback off what Eva just said. This conversation came up before this board about a year ago.
Yeah,
because I can't remember his name, Django Grace, stood up and talked about different kinds of surfaces and whatnot. So it did come up. Kim, you had your hand up?
No, we're good now.
You're okay. So I just want to acknowledge Liz has had her hand up for quite a long time, but I'm going to stay with the board. Liz, hang in there. Ruby.
I just wanted to kind of remind us that the thing that Frank just mentioned, where there's this commitment within the capital plan towards natural turfs, that was a decision that we made. Like, that was board directed. That's where that came from. So I just wanted to remind us of that. And I guess just as a question in terms of something that was brought up is the question that what Frank just, what you're walking through and you're saying this, we've gotten these bids and we're considering these bids, is the issue that we, this board should have a more active role in deciding on bids? I know in the past there have been moments when this board's, like there's been, you or Mark or someone's brought before a bidder and said, well, this is who we'd like, and the board has to act on it. Is that still the process, or is there some change?
So no change. We follow the state law. Title 16, Section 559 requires the board's engagement for what's called high-cost construction projects. The legislature, fortunately, finally recognized the law had not been updated for probably 20 years, and so the limit used to be 500,000. So that's where I would come to the board. There's a different bid process that is required to have the board pre-qualify the contractors. I don't know if that's what you're recalling, but for like the Oak Grove project, a couple of $1 million project, we created a specification that the board approved in terms of what is the process to qualify. That's all in the state law. And then the board acted upon that. We received interested parties for that project, just an expression of interest. Once you get the expression of interest, then the engineer sends out the specifications to the interested parties. And to your point about board involvement, there's really not a lot of discretion from the state statutes. No, Eva, I don't know if you're referring to more maybe a municipal board, but in public school boards, you are bound by the state bid law, which is for those what they call high cost projects. You have to award to the low bidder. Once you let the contractor in the door and say you are pre-qualified, the bid has to go to the low bidder. So there's not a lot for the board to discuss. So for projects less than 500,000, our past practice for several years has been, as I said earlier, if there's a funding component that goes with a project that specifically wants board minutes around recognizing this is the way in which we're applying federal funds to an improvement, then we make sure that that is documented, and because obviously we can't get the approval without it. But otherwise, as I say, we are implementing many projects week in and week out. So you would need a very different schedule if you wanted to participate in the discussion of all of those activities. So that's a little background.
Okay, thank you. Tim and then Sean.
Yeah, you're right. This was the issue of synthetic versus natural grass was talked about extensively, and the board last year agreed that we should move ahead with natural grass. To get to Eva's point, the board and the public never really weighed in on the question about organically managed natural grass versus just resodding. And you recall Marilyn Chiarello from Edible Brattleboro made a strong case for the advantages of organically managed turf. And it's quite different from just resodding a field. But that was just an example of one of the questions that was just left out there lingering.
Okay, Sean.
Yeah, the whole idea and the whole all the fields. You know, they're very, very well maintained. We don't have a lot of room, but the room that we do have has been utilized extremely creatively. And so now, on Tenny, I believe they'll have a full-size soccer field and a full-size field hockey field. So it's been a process that's pretty involved in trying to make improvements in a difficult location. And there's been a lot of time and energy and information about that for years. And I think that what's come up now is changing Tenny so that they will have a full soccer field, which people have talked about for years. I mean, I remember going when my son was here in school, and the end of the, it'd be the corner over on that side, you ran onto the infield.
Yeah, and
So as a soccer player, you can't have a soccer ball on grass and then all of a sudden pop on the dirt. I mean, that's, it's, a lot of people in third world countries do that all the time, but it's, it's if avoidable, it really should be avoided. So.
But there still will be some dirt left on the.
Oh, there will.
Yeah, there will be.
Not
Just
as much.
unavoidable.
Yeah, not as much. And we're looking at Sawyer Field down the road as part of continuing to make as much athletic activity possible for all interested students. And that will be part of alleviating that small piece that still is in that. The issue around organic versus the non-organic has also been incorporated into the grounds crew's choice of the way in which we maintain fields. They long time ago moved away from the non-organic where possible, where it addresses the fertility of the soil and so on. And that was a direct outcome, again, of all of that discussion that we had back in 2019 and 20. Any other questions on Tenny?
Okay, we have another comment, Sean.
Yeah, one thing when I was going through the warrants, and I noted it out, was the switch from synthetic fertilizer for the fields to an organic fertilizer for the field, which is a small step towards getting toward the very, very difficult criteria of having an organic field. Historically, we use grub control on the field for Japanese beetles, all kinds of things. So you can't just say, okay, we're going to make this an organic field. You'd have to take up all the sod, all the soil, truck it all away, bring in all organic soil, which would be prohibitive in cost and also in lost field time. So you wouldn't have availability of students that played, freshman, sophomore, junior football or soccer or whatever, and then boom, they can't play their senior year. So it has to be thought of in a very holistic sense.
Yes, well said.
All right, Tim?
Is what, when we're discussing organic, a very novel idea that I thought was great. I don't want to rehash the whole thing now, but Brattleboro has a huge mountain of compost, and I spoke to the compost people over there, and they said that would be a win-win to use our own compost to refurbish organically managed food. So I don't know if you pursued the compost idea.
I haven't looked into it yet.
Okay. Before we move on, Liz has had her hand up for a very long time. Liz, thank you for being so patient. Liz Adams from Putney.
I just wanted to point out, in case people haven't noticed, how well our merged district and prior to that, the individual towns have kept up their school buildings and the grounds. We hear a lot now about how school buildings across Vermont are crumbling and falling apart because people did not maintain them. And Frank's done a great job of that. But prior to Frank being here, each of our towns did a great job. So we don't have buildings falling apart at the seams. And I think that it's important to acknowledge how fiscally responsible each town was and the merge board has been in taking care of what we have.
Thank you, Liz.
Thanks, Liz. Thank you. Okay. I am going to ask Frank. It's almost 8:30. And I'm just you're going to go through other capital, other bids at this point, or projects?
I'd say another 3 minutes.
Absolutely.
Are we good for that?
Yes, we
Shall
are.
we proceed?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
very good.
Thank
But
you, Frank.
great to have the questions and to help the board and the community, be fully informed. So I appreciate the questions and the opportunity to respond. So in our Guilford School, we have the Monadnock Commercial Building Company was awarded the bid for the window replacement. This is a project that was approved by the Agency of Ed to use ESSER money for actually a year ago. We had hoped to build this out last summer, but we had too many other projects and not able to get bidders on that. But that has been awarded, and we have asbestos abatement and in advance of that, a separate contract that will be going right into the Guilford School as soon as the kids are out in a couple weeks, and that project should be completed before September when the kids return. Oak Grove, we have 3 projects, most of which I think you're quite familiar with. The heat pump technology. So it'll be an all-electric school. It'll be our first. It's our last to get off oil, but it'll be our first to be all-electric with a heat pump conversion. We're having a little challenge with the structural steel schedule, so I'm working through that as we speak. But we do expect this project to be certainly we will have a fully operational school in the fall. We may be as late as December before we can actually rely 100% on the heat pump. We may have to run some concurrent systems for a little bit, just typical supply chain constraints that are all over. The Oak Grove School also has a propane tank installed. It's interesting, the heat pump technology as a backup now can incorporate a combustion system built inside the heat pump itself. So it's pretty cool, but we always have to have backup systems. We hope that we won't use them, but if we need them, they will be there. So those bid awards have been awarded. As part of that project, we also have to do some more roofing section replacements, and that is a pending contract that we have not put out to bid yet. So in Dummerston, we have completed several projects, gone very well. The current one is not the kind that we love to jump into, but this is a mandated PCB abatement project. It's strictly in utility closets. It's not in areas where students are affected. And we are underway with Fuss and O'Neill, $144,000 contract that they are working on right now for summer work. That I expect to be fully reimbursed by the Vermont legislature, whether it's the Vermont Department of Health or the Agency of Ed. They have been very slow to reimburse us on the Oak Grove work, but they're assuring us that they will reimburse us.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
My recollection was that there's a finite amount of money, and there was a potential for it to be utilized, to be used up before, all expenditures were reimbursed. Is that still a concern of ours, or?
I don't think so. As far as I know, and I haven't gotten a summary from the agency or from the Joint Fiscal Office as to what is in a bill that's not subject to veto and what is not. But my understanding is that the legislature sort of pulled off the table the requirement for schools to move forward with PCB testing and abatement for an indefinite period of time. They realize they don't have the resources and the labs don't have the capacity to address, the types of things that we saw at Oak Grove. So the answer is, as far as I know, unlikely. We are one of a few districts that have gone forward, identified PCBs within, I think it was $13 million available to address the abatement. So we're the first round. Fortunately, out of all of our 10 schools, we only have 2 that we have to address actual abatement.
Okay, thank you.
And the last school I'll mention pending work is the playground bid at the Putney Central School is just been issued. Nice upgrade that will be going through our new partnership with Visbit, the safety standard review, as well as just a design check. And that one's pending. Just issued the RFP yesterday. And then we have awarded a bid for the roofing. I think Ruby mentioned that you may have seen it. It's underway for the gym. So those are current projects or about to be implemented.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
Thank you, Frank.
You're welcome.
Since we're in a fiscal report, do we also need a motion having to do with finance over the course of the summer?
Yes, I think we do. I was trying to craft the motion, and I may have to ask Frank, but I authorize, or the WSESD authorizes the Finance Committee during the summer months, warrants and payrolls and capital plan projects. Is that it?
Implementation of capital plan projects.
Yeah. Well, that's my motion.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All right, can we hear the motion one more time, please?
So what I have is the WSESD board authorizes the finance committee the authority to approve warrants and capital plan projects? Is that right?
And payroll.
Yeah. Warrants and payroll, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Authority to implement, was the word implement in there?
Implement capital plan projects, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask to hear the motion one more time.
So the WSESD board authorizes the finance committee the authority to approve warrants, payroll, and to implement capital plan projects during the summer months, correct?
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, limitation of time during the summer months. Okay, thank you. We have a second. Thank you. Discussion? Tim?
Just like hiring, I assume that we'll continue to receive the warrants and the details about the capital expenditures from the entire board and certain members of the public.
Yep. And, the capital plan is on the website and all of those projects are identified, specifically by site.
Other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate your approval by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please indicate your rejection by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries, thank you. Okay, so, thank you, Frank. Thank you. We are now up to the consent agenda, and since there has been no comment about pulling anything out of this consent agenda, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as it exists on the meeting agenda?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate your approval by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
If you disapprove, please indicate by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Is there any other business at this meeting? Kim?
Just quick,
Yes.
I wanted to say congratulations to Nathan Kim, who won the boys tennis state championship individuals this weekend. And all of the most of the other teams are competing in their sports starting this week, so.
Boys baseball team just won a 10-inning game
Wow.
tonight, 2-1.
Yes, girls tennis plays tomorrow.
No, they played today.
They lost, okay. Boys tennis plays on the 6th because they had a first round bye, because they are the #1 seed in the state.
That was my get a rain out, unfortunately, but yes.
Just to add to the busyness, right?
Yes, that's right. Well, congratulations to all of our students in terms of their honors, in every way, the arts, music, theater, sports, academics, just that sense of the whole person, which is what we want, what we're invested in. So, thank you to everyone that makes that happen in our school system. Wow, hard work, hard work. Sean?
I'd just like to say one thing about what Kim just mentioned. It's been really exciting to open the Reformer, and they've done a great job giving coverage to WSESD sports, and Unified and the tennis, and I mean it's just been fantastic. So they've usually had a whole front page of the second section, and it's been really good.
Yeah.
It's fun to look at.
Yes.
We have a teacher in the building that posts every single article, and he starts on one side of his wall, and so the whole school year. So if you ever walk down the science hallway, the whole hallway has
That's cool.
every paper article.
Very cool. Very cool. Wow. Is there any additional business before this board this evening?
Madam Chair, there being no further business before this board, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye. Is there anything negative? Please indicate by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Okay, we are adjourned at 8:38. Wow, 8:38.